and share our work and share our thoughts about it all. So I'd love to go around and, introduce everybody. Maria, tell them a little bit about who you are, where they can find you, and what you do.
Oh, hello, I'm Maria Gerke. I am a watercolor artist mostly. I'm originally from Germany. I came to the US now, let's see, it's been 16 years. So, so my watercolors are mostly linked to mindfulness. Right now, with my art, I'm trying to create portals to places that are tranquil and refreshing, where you can get away from all the worries of your daily life. But also, I'm very interested in mindfulness. Besides my art, I have a podcast. It's called Becoming Mindful Podcast. And where I talk with a friend of mine who is also a meditation and yoga teacher about all kinds of things mindfulness related, intersecting topics as well, like parenting or environmental things or feminism, all kinds of things. We started out kind of diving into mindfulness more from a historical and what is it perspective, and then reviewed some books and so on. And all of that also flows into my art. As I said, I'm really trying to bring this tranquility and calm environment to people's lives.
Mona?
Yeah, I'm, as Maria, a watercolor artist, and I'm from Germany and still in Germany. And I do mostly like landscapes and anything that's inspired by nature. But I'm also teaching mini tutorials on how to dab into watercolors when you're just starting out. And yeah, I'm just trying to bring joy to watercolors and just painting. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Momo's Art World.
Hannah and Nemo?
Hello, I am Hannah, and this is Nemo, married couple, actually for about 20 years now.
Yeah.
We live in Texas, and we make moving mosaics from aluminum cans. And that's what you're seeing on the wall behind us here. They move with air motion. So we have a fan going right now, so you can see that they're kind of flickering a little bit. When you look up close at our artwork, you can see that we are actually taking punches from the colors from actual aluminum cans that we have collected and processed and repurposed. And we consider them to be these transformations that will help the viewer to remember to be true to themselves and the environment. And so that both human rights and environmentalism are important issues for us that we try to talk about to our community on Instagram and TikTok and now on YouTube. And you can find us on all three platforms at Hannah and Nemo. And our website is hannahandnemo.com.
Britt?
Hi, I'm Britt. I'm a visual artist from the Netherlands, and I mostly focus on making jewelry in bronze, silver, copper, brass, and it's all inspired by history, historical artifacts, and nature. And it's stuff like the thing I'm wearing right now. And I am a vendor at a couple of festivals and markets in the Dutch festival scene, like Castelfest and Zomerfolk. It's a bit fantasy folk kind of events. And you can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, Facebook, and on my website. My socials are @BrittDierik. Maybe a bit hard to follow for the non-Dutch.
We have your names down in the description at least.
That's great. And my website is britfineartdesign.com.
Lennon Bone.
Yeah, it's definitely helps to have the name that I have, because it's just like, oh, okay, there's a weird one that I can remember. Yeah, my name is Lennon. I have a wife who's an amazing illustrator named Jamie. I have 2 kiddos, Breda and Adeline, 6 and 9 years old, who are upstairs with the neighbor friend right now, hanging out. I was a professional musician for professional in that sense, meaning like that's all I did for about 10 years, and then left that to go into like studio work, and then did that for a while, and then started making stuff to help musicians be better business people. And that led to some of our visual artist friends, including my wife, be like, yeah, everything that you're talking about is really applicable to us as well, and I think you should try to open it up a little bit. And so I decided to give it a shot, and now we're on our, like, this is our 2nd year of business of me just doing Stop the Starving Artist full time. And that's where you can find me. We help artists to learn how to be better business people, because I believe that when you can sell your work and do the thing that you love, it'll change the world and yourself in the process. And I think it's a really beautiful thing. And so stopthestarvingartist.com or Stop the Starving Artist on any social medias.
And I have to say, Lennon, since I've been working with you, I have not only sold more art, I've made more art. And I didn't think that that was my issue to start with, but it really was. I mean, you can't sell what you don't make. And if you don't have the inventory, you know, nobody's going to come knocking on your door and say, hey, will you make me this? So I'm really grateful that it wasn't like you did something to do that. It's the process of working with you and other creatives. It's really kind of helped me figure out my path and what I wanted out of my art life, and how to develop a regular art practice, which is really, I don't think I had a business until I had a regular art practice.
Yeah.
Now, Susan,
Yes.
I think you also have to introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Because we are streaming to other channels. So thank you. I'm Susan Taylor Brown. I am now a fiber artist, working primarily with embroidery and abstract embroidery art. But before that, for over 20 years, I was a writer of books primarily for children, and articles and newspaper magazines, all that kind of good stuff. And I just kind of, reached the end of what I wanted to say with my words and went looking for something else and turned to art. I have gone through the stages of working with paper, making journals, making books, and then finding my way to fabric and stitch after 40 years of ignoring any kind of art stuff. And it's fun to gather. This is the first time we've done something like this. And we've talked about it, for the last, year, we've talked about doing something like this and doing a play date and just sort of, so I hope everybody's working on something. I got something here. I'm doing some drizzle stitches while we're chatting. Hannah's got Hannah and Nima are cutting cans. Britt is laying something out. We should go around. Wait a minute. Let's go around and make everybody. Let's see. I got to remember how to do that. Can I do that? If I hit solo layout, is that what's going to do it, Lennon?
I think so. Yeah, you can make it just about you or whoever.
Okay, Maria, you want to hold up something?
Sure, I can also switch my camera real quick.
Yeah, there we go. We can go through and switch your camera and see what everybody's doing.
I'm currently painting. I don't know if you can see it.
All right.
Too bright.
Okay, Mona, you got something ready?
Yeah, I'm just preparing something for some thumbnails on my sketchbook. So.
Oh shoot! Let's see. How do I go back to everybody? Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, I did that.
Like this.
All right, hold them up. You can just have to hold them up.
It's just my sketchbook just starting out, so you can't really see anything.
So you sketch first, and then is that the paper that you would use to go over?
Yeah, like I'm going to do something like this, where I just do little thumbnails for landscapes. So I'm preparing the lines.
Hannah, do you like you guys cutting everything with bare hands, not gloves?
Yeah, we get a lot of criticism about that too. We have done this for so long that we're just, I don't know if we're just calloused or if we're just that used to it that we hardly ever cut
My
ourselves.
hands are soft. I don't know what callous.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, we're just accustomed to it.
Maybe you think your hands are soft. Maybe
No.
Hannah doesn't think they're so soft.
Yeah. Show what you're doing.
So we have a bunch of cans that look like this, I guess.
Hold up.
Okay, let me see if I can. I want to be able to do this solo. Okay, there we go.
Okay,
Wait a
So
minute.
they
There you
look
go.
like this. You see the little edge?
we've cut them to this point, okay? So the bottom and the top is gone.
But they don't open.
They are hard to flatten when they still have this ridge.
So then you got to cut the ridge off.
Yeah, I gotta
Mhm.
cut the ridge off. Kind of just, with scissors.
Hold up higher.
And just
Wow.
cut it off.
So that's
Wow.
one task.
That's
Yeah, and then I am
and I have like hundreds and hundreds to do.
so many.
It's like
Wow.
just and there's like 3 or 4 other ones that look like this.
That are for
Behind me.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
and then
many
I'm
cans? How
Go
many
ahead.
cans do you usually use for one?
I was just wondering that too.
For one piece.
That
like a
is a
big
really
one.
good question, and it's like almost
Well,
impossible to answer. But like,
No, like it just depends. Like we do
well, what about that one?
kind of like that piece that's right there above Hannah
Mhm.
there. It's like there's a can. You know how a can has like 2 graphics, one on each side, and it's a beer can. It had this girl, and she had flowers in her hand, and she had, I don't know what else she had, and she had like a bandana. So that one, and it took like how many was it? Like 60 cans.
That sounds right.
So it
yeah.
was 60 cans of the same can, and 2 graphics that were just punched up to make that size piece.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
And then
That's
like,
just, like,
well, this one is maybe easier to answer too because this is made from 3 cans. So
and that's LaCroix.
and it's all LaCroix cans. So would you say like about 6 to 12 for each section?
Yeah, maybe.
But we're not using the entire can every time.
Mhm.
But you punch everything from a can and then sort them by colors and
Yeah, sort of. I mean, we're really going for like the cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like if there's a can that has like a bee on it, I want just that bee. I don't care about the other color. Really, I want like, because every punch, I want somebody to look at it and say like, oh, look, there's a flower. There's whatever.
Something interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm also working on we do like side projects with the tabs. So this is my coffee can of tabs that I've got at the moment. Super satisfying. And I'm experimenting with them. I'm like weaving a basket here, and then this is a chain that I've recently made that not necessarily things we're selling, but just always trying to contemplate more ways to utilize the material because we have so much of this stuff.
wow.
Yeah.
So Jeremy was able to pop in and join us. Sorry, Jeremy, it took me a minute to see you down there. Thanks for the.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good.
It's fine. It's fine.
So we all went around and introduced ourselves. We would love to hear who you are, what you do, all that good stuff, where they can find you.
Hello, my name is Jeremy. I'm into music. Probably one of the very few people on here who's into music. Not the opposite, but kind of similar. I do creative things. I produce music, I play the piano, and I make music with found sounds. And I have an Instagram channel mainly at the minute, and the handle is Jer Gracemark. Jer Gracemark or Jeremy Gracemark. That's how you can find me. So that's me.
Right.
And I'm from London. Originally, my mum is French, my dad is German, so I'm a bit of a mix of everything. So that's why I sound funny.
I'm looking forward to hearing some of those found sounds though. I want to hear some of that. Britt, what are you working on?
Currently, I'm working on a video intro for my own YouTube channel. I want like a collage of sounds because I live in London and there's a lot of public transport, and I'm currently recording a lot of sounds of public transport and putting a collage together and make it kind of musical, though not just like sounds. Like it's got to be
Nice.
somehow musical.
Nice.
So yeah, that's me.
Britt, what's going on over there on your table?
I am soldering a pendant. Hopefully you can see it. I'm trying to make the camera.
There you go. Wow.
This is the bezel, and I'm going to set a stone in it using these prongs, and all these prongs I need to solder onto the bezel. And it's going to hold a labradorite like this one, or
Nice.
this one.
Oh,
I
that's
have to hold it, and then the claws are gonna fold over it, and then it's gonna hold the stone.
wow. Let's see if I can.
That's pretty cool. How long does that
Thank
take you
you.
to finish it?
Long time. Probably is gonna take me a couple of tries, and trying not to melt all the little prongs, because that happens when they all stand up together. And you try and point the flame only at one, but still. I'm gonna try out something I bought called cooling paste. So I'm gonna try and see if it works to cool those little, like those things that stick out. So because I soldered them already, and I don't want them to melt.
Yeah, I was soldering as well the other day to fix some cool device, and it's quite hard because it can easily burn a hole into your thing. I fixed this lovely device. Look. Does anyone know what this is?
Do you also use a flame, or?
No, I've got a soldering iron. Like it's literally just so it's like I can direct the heat better, and I'm currently saving up for like a hot air one, so it can solder like parts on circuit boards and things like that. But yeah, it's technical.
That's cool.
So wait, hot air can do the soldering?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's how you solder chips on circuit boards, like computer stuff. You heat up the entire thing and then you lift it off.
Cool.
You just have to direct the hot air really precisely. So it's quite a skill. I
just bought a little flameless lighter thingy so I could melt fabric, and that was scary enough. So that other stuff terrifies me. Lennon, what are you playing with over there? I know you're starting to expand your creativity a little bit.
Yeah, I'll show you guys some of the things I've been playing with. So it should be known that visual art is like not necessarily been like, I'm a musician first, much like Jeremy. And so I've been playing with like drawing. So here's like some character study things I've been messing with. I try to do like a mix of blind contour and then adding things to it. So working on like, how do I just make weird, fun, sort of like interesting kind of characters, trying to throw out like the expectation of form in terms of like, I like, I don't want things to feel like you have to be idealistic with like the form, because Jamie comes from this world of, my wife, of figurative work. And so it's very intimidating to me to be like, oh my gosh, she's like brilliant at that. And I'm just like, okay, I just want to antithesize, is that a word? That for me from any visual thing, because I just can't like imagine trying to go so detailed on that. And she's brilliant at it. And so I'm like, what's the thing that intimidates me? And I'll just take it away and I'll just do this other thing. And so that's kind of how I've been trying to approach it. And it's been really fun. We'll do things with the girls. We'll just hang out and draw and come up with dumb little characters and things. And, I've been working on my like some still life things too. So I got my pear thing there. So little stuff.
Nice.
I'm impressed though, because I don't know. I tried picking up the pencil again, and it terrifies me. And I'm sure that goes back to being kicked out of the art class for drawing. So picking up the pencil to do any kind of art, which is why I don't sketch out any of my things. I don't plan anything out, because it's just so reminiscent of being told that, I was never going to understand what I needed to understand in order to make good art. So I should just leave the class right now. And here, let me tell you that I helped you along and I transferred you out of this class, and you can go see your counselor now and decide what else you're going to take.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's such a challenge, right? Because I think for everybody, it's like, you don't know, like, what I'm working on there is, it's like, is it good? I don't know. Does it matter? It's like, it's hard to say. when it comes to the things that we make, because we want it to be good. We want people to like it. But I think people like it when we like it. I think that's like how it has to start, you know? Because the more that we just feel confident, I think we've talked about this a little bit, where I watched somebody do Zen tangling, maybe.
Oh, Barbara, one of the gals here in the audience, she does tons of Zentangles. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so I was
So-
watching somebody do that, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But then I watched someone else do it, and I was like, oh, it's amazing. And I wondered why. What's the difference between the two? And the one goes, okay, here's the exact steps, blah, 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 and it has to be this way. And the other person went, ooh, this line just went exactly where it needed to. I didn't even have to try. Oh, that's beautiful. I love how that worked out. Just like trusting the process versus making me feel like I had to do something right or wrong. And it just made me like that work more for some reason, because they felt like they were exploring and just letting it sort of happen, and they trusted themselves. It was like a neat, a neat thing. So
I want to say, I think it's really cool that you are playing with visual art, Lennon, because I don't anticipate that you are going to stop doing your business that you're building at Stop the Starving Artist to suddenly become a visual artist. And so for the rest of us, so Lennon is playing with visual art. What are the rest of us doing that's outside of our chosen art practice to stretch ourselves and let ourselves play? I mean, Hannah's been doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
So what are you guys doing?
I do a lot of other things like crochet, and I like to sew and stuff like that.
I have something to say too. Yeah. Okay, so Susan had a big box of scraps of leather that she sent me. And as you know, I did make a pair of sandals with it, but I have another thing I made. We sit on the floor. We are floor people. We sit on the floor, we work on the floor.
Floor people.
Yeah,
That just sounds so
I love it.
Yeah. But we have these chairs that have kind of an ugly cover on them. So I took your leather, and I don't know.
Oh, look! Wait a minute. Let me put this up there. I don't
know if you can. I wove.
Wow.
On the chair. So this is like a folding chair that just sits on the floor and you lean on it, but it's adjustable, like one of those beach lounger chairs. It's just a small little thing, but like I took all your leather and just wove it. So I think it looks so much cooler than it did before.
It does.
It just looked like kind of junky furniture, but now it kind of looks like something I might hang on the wall. Unfortunately, the lighting isn't that great, but I think you can see a little bit of the weave.
Yeah, I can see the weaving on the side where you can see a little bit of the. Yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah,
looks really fancy.
Yeah, so this is just something. Nemo's going to shine a light on it to see if that helps. But yeah, this is one of those little side projects that, like, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I love to do things like this, and I can get quite carried away with it too. But I mean, that's something Nemo and I have been talking about lately. And actually, one of the questions I wanted to ask is like, do you guys, I mean, it's kind of like the opposite of like a creative block. What were you calling it?
The creative overflow?
Oh, yeah, a creative overflow. Like, we get creative overflow all the time. And like,
although I personally have reined it in a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, for a while there, Nemo was painting, learning guitar, writing music.
Yeah.
He wrote an 80,000 word novel all at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you not?
I knitted a whole bunch. I was knitting a bunch.
He made sweaters. He's making like real clothing. Like,
do you not lose like focus there? Because I have similar problems. Like I watch things, I find a lot of stuff cool, and then, I'll try that, and then I've tried so many things and I tried nothing in the end. But
the only thing I lose is sleep. Just
but we're a good match for each other because like we let each other do this, but only like to a reasonable extent, and then one of us will notice and we'll be like, hey, wait a minute, I think that we are going down a path that's taking us somewhere that's like maybe it's fun and interesting and we're enjoying it, but like we do have responsibilities to ourselves. Like we still have to earn a living, so we kind of need to focus on our bread and butter stuff this week and maybe circle back around. The other thing we've done is we'll pick and choose, and we'll kind of like say, okay, for now I'm going to have this one hobby, like the chair that I wove. We have 2 of those chairs, but I only did one, and then I stopped. I'm like, okay, that's enough of that for now. Let's focus again. And then when I'm starting to feel that urge to do something different, I'll work on the other chair, so we have a matching set. So
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I noticed that too, that I have things like, especially when it gets to the end of the year, Christmas, I'm like making all these things like sweaters for all my friends' kids. I made this crocheted sweater for my kid.
Ooh,
Oh, that's nice.
So,
that's pretty.
for
Really
example,
cool.
I also like to test patterns for pattern designers, but then it's like, okay, there's not so much time.
I have met the designer of the seat patterns for the London Underground the other day. That was an interesting conversation.
Wow.
Ooh.
They, when you take one line, for example, the Piccadilly line, the seat moquette, you call that. There's like little symbols. In every symbol basically represents like a site of London. It's pretty thought through. It's pretty cool. And you can buy socks in that with that moquette then.
Well, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Heard a podcast yesterday. I was listening to him while I was working, and I think the guy's first name was Nate. His last name was Silva. He's written a few books, but he was talking about how he keeps a folder of future possibilities for all these ideas, because he's got this idea overflow. They're always coming. He wants to do all those things. And it's the one that he just can't stop thinking about that, keeps him up in the middle of the night. That's the one he works on first. But he's like, sometimes I'll work on that one in a burst for, a few weeks, a few days, sometimes a few years if I'm writing a book. And then, when I'm done, and I go back to that folder of future possibilities and pick something out. But I think that's sort of what creatives do, right? We never have a shortage of ideas. I mean, but I tend to stop doing things I'm not good at. And you don't get any better at it unless you keep doing it. But I do know that I stop doing things if I'm not any good at it.
Yeah, I have challenged myself because my background is music and video editing and stuff like that. I designed my own music cover. I don't know if I can show it, but I would have to share my screen. Is that possible?
I don't know. Should be.
Share screen. I'm working on it.
Okay, let me know when you get it there, and I'll put you
Yeah,
on.
Yeah, it should work in theory.
And I feel like I'm the opposite. I do what I'm terrible at
Yes.
to try to learn something new.
Yeah,
Like, I'm a terrible guitar player.
But I get all excited about, it's like, oh, this looks like a really cool thing, and I want to do it. And then it's like, oh, it's going to be really messy, and I don't necessarily want to make the messy thing. It's going to be a hot, messy thing that's got to be done outside. I don't want to do that. But also, I tried it a few times, and I wasn't any good at it. And I think maybe it's as I get older, I realize there's that passage of time. There's only so many years left. So if I have another, I'm gonna be 65 in a few days. If I've got another, 30 years, how do I want to spend them? Do I want to spend them learning 30 new things, or do I want to spend them really growing as an artist in one particular area? I don't know.
I learned that if you want to be good at something, you have to be mediocre for a long time before you become good at something.
Okay.
I think you have to, do it or not. I don't know. That's my experience. I'm still working on my screen share.
Yeah, but mastering something is kind of arbitrary too. Like, what does it even mean, right?
Yeah.
And especially once you get better at something, I don't know. There's like this term of you feel like you're not as good. Like the more you know about something, or the better you get at something, like the worse, like you feel like you are at it.
Yeah, because you see all the points where you could improve, and I feel that sometimes too, especially with things that are new, like things I'm really interested about and going to start just for the fun of it. And then,
Well, how
You
many
get-
things though do we start for the fun of it, and then we start thinking about, well, can I make any money at this?
Yeah.
I mean, that stumps me every time. It's like, okay, wow, this was really cool. I made one of these. If I make 100 of these, and I sell them each for $10, wow, it's $1,000. And I tell you what, I can't tell you how many times. I couldn't even count how many times that has stopped me or gotten me, where then I'm suddenly getting rid of stuff. That's why my friend Sandy, who's in the audience, has gotten gigantic boxes of stuff from me that I've started, and I've made like, oh, well, here are, 25 little samples of these little books I want to make, and I don't want to make them anymore. I'm going to send them to Sandy and she can finish them. But I'm always thinking about the dollar. And when I stop thinking about making the dollar at it, I have a whole lot more fun with my art.
Well, you have to like what you do. If you do things for money, then yeah, it's crap, isn't it? Really, at least for me.
Yeah, Barbie just said editing photos was that way for me. She was a professional wedding photographer for a long time, and she said I just saw the errors I made. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Randy. She says, more so, how much will this cost to begin a new art? Oh, yeah. How many of us have gone out, we've watched a video or we've seen an artist and gone out and bought all the supplies for something? I went out and bought all the stuff for encaustic, thinking that was it for sure. I was working with paper. I was going to do a bunch of encaustics. I bought all the stuff, and it's all sitting out in the garage waiting for me to sell it because I never once did it.
Way,
I have a whole cupboard filled with like hobbies that I bought. So I wanted to have handmade watercolors to do some watercolor painting for myself. And then I think I see Jeremy found the screen share.
Yeah, I managed.
Bought...
Yeah, sorry.
Doesn't matter. Then I bought a whole set to make watercolors, and I used it one time, and now it's just taking up space. And I have a lot of those things.
I have a whole cabinet full of stuff also that I just want to experiment with, but I'm not getting the time to do it, or just do something else instead.
The cabinet of abandoned hobbies and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. It looks good though. I like it as for decoration.
Or like old clothes that you want to sew into. Like I have this where I'm like, well, I can donate this, but no, wait, I can also maybe make something for my kid, like like turn it into a kid-sized thing. Now
that's why so many of my stuff, my clothes land out in the garage for fabric.
I think I might have an addiction to that.
The more I learn, the more I need to learn. Yeah, so true.
I just turned the jeans into the skirt. This.
Oh, how cute!
Yeah.
That's cute.
Same thing. I find everything I can't let go of. I find additional clothes at the thrift store. I change it, turn it into something else. I'm like, I think I might be addicted.
But you're really good at finishing. I have to admire you for that. And Britt, you are too, with all the art that you do, all the jewelry that you're making, and getting maybe the deadlines of getting to the festivals and stuff helps. But finishing seems to be a real issue for me. Is it for anybody else?
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't know. I like a finished project.
Yeah,
me too.
Well,
I like the finish, but actually getting to the finish line.
But that's what drives me, I think, to finish something.
Yeah.
And like I'll go into, I don't know, like almost like addiction, like
trance,
yeah, like it's a drug.
Yeah.
To get it done.
Yeah.
And I don't get that high until it's done.
That's true. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, that cover I made myself, I finished this. I just need to make the song to that. I did it the other way around. I learned a lot.
It's really cool though.
Yeah, I like it.
There's a lot of because I work in the events and TV industry, so I'm always kind of around, and I needed to find something I can do just on my computer. And I then tried Adobe Illustrator, but then went over to Affinity Designer, and I just love vector graphics. I found that quite cool, like drawing it and then making it smooth, gradients, and adding textures and all that kind of stuff. So Yeah, that was my first venture into, well, not my first venture, but my first play with graphical, visual stuff like that.
One of the viewers, Sue, said, I enjoy the creative process, but generally don't enjoy whatever it takes to put a finish on a piece. And I think that's where it is with me, although I don't know if it's the process of that. I think for me, I know that when I finish something, I'm going to want to put it out there in the world, and then it's going to be judged. And I'm sure that's why I've got like 10 pieces right now that just each one needs probably a couple hours, and they could all be done and go in the shop. But instead, I decided to spend the last 4 days reorganizing some stuff in the studio. And I'm sure that was just avoiding finishing, because when it's done, they can be judged and be found lacking. And, that's something I just really continually work to try and get over.
That's
or it's
perfectionism.
kind of like sometimes it's also kind of like the boring stuff that you don't want to do. It's like, okay, this was really exciting. Or what I sometimes have, if I get into something and I'm really excited about it and I do it for hours on end, and then I have to interrupt it for something else. Like I have to put it down for a day or so. And then I can't get back into it. Like,
Yeah.
I should have finished it right then, because I was in the zone. I was in the moment for that particular project. I don't know.
I remember hearing something where it's like, if you that last 10% is the hardest for most people, because it's that, I think for many of us, it's like, well, when is it finished? It's number one. Sometimes you don't know.
Yeah.
And then when, to that other point of like, well, when it is done, then what? Then you have to figure out like, what's after that, and those can be daunting. And I'm curious, because like a lot of people said they have stuff that they've bought to start things, but then didn't start it. Like, why not start? What got you excited to buy the thing, and then what stopped you from starting it?
For me, it's been looking at the project. It's been a lot about learning what kind of artist I wanted to be, and I've spent a lot of time studying other artists to understand what I enjoy about their art, and is it something that I really wanted to replicate, or is it just that I enjoyed looking at it? And that took a lot of confidence for me to get to that point to say, okay, this is art I enjoy. I love looking at encaustic art. Absolutely love it. I'm fascinated by the layers and the milky feeling that you can get from just burying things, and the vintage feel you can get. But I realized after I bought all the stuff that I really wasn't that interested in my brain. There was no story for me. It was all mechanical to think about doing it. I didn't feel inspired. And the texture, when it was all done, was going to be flat. And for me, I'm all about, more texture like this, that you can feel the different levels. But I didn't get that way. I bought a whole bunch of stuff. Same thing with rubber stamps. I never did scrapbooking, but I bought a lot of rubber stamps thinking I would be able to stamp the pages. And it wasn't until I really let myself understand where I was going artistically that I realized putting a stamp, even with some embossing powder on top of a piece of paper, was one level, and I needed more. I needed more 3D stuff. So that was it for me.
Hey, Susan. I gotta tell you, as an aside, I love what you do, but at some point, you were talking about how to frame your pieces, and you were saying something about hanging them on the wall versus showing them like horizontal. And all of a sudden, my mind just opened up, and I realized when you said that you think of your pieces as a landscape, like an actual landscape, which you would be like walking around on, all of a sudden it completely shifted my perspective of your art. And I was just like, now every time I see it, I picture myself like this little person walking around the hills and like the groves in your pieces. And I hadn't ever done that before. And I don't know how often you talk about it that way, but we were having a one-on-one conversation. So I think it just goes to show that, when you hear what the artist has to say, or what your intention is, or what you want your viewer to feel, it's really important, so useful. And I don't know why it took so long for me to just have that sink in. And now I see it that way every time, and I just love it.
Yeah.
I
Thank
just
you.
had to tell you that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Tattered Cloth said, when I finish a piece, I want to keep it and enjoy it, so I never sell anything. Not a good businesswoman, but I bet you're creating a lot of stuff that has heart, right? Randy said, I think art is so subjective. I have had to give less cares. If I do what I enjoy, eventually my joy will catch up to others. We don't give ourselves enough grace to trust the process. That is it. Trust our process, because if we're not enjoying the process, you guys know what I say all the time. If you're not having a good time doing it, why the heck are you wasting your time doing it? You know, enjoy the process. Yeah, Barbie, you're going to walk through my little stuff now, right? And you know the pieces, the landscapes. I love the idea of shifting. I mean, any of your art, take anything that you've made, and you know, if you hold it this way, you're going to get one look. What if I wrapped it around a bunch of fiber fill and it suddenly becomes this 3D kind of thing, and I kind of angle it at different ways? Now you've got a different look at it, right? Now you're more like walking through hopefully a garden, which is where I'm heading with this.
I love all that. That's so cool. And I thought about that too with some of your more 3D stuff, Susan, that I've been seeing on, like, as you've been working on the website. I'm like, oh, this is such a cool. I don't think I've heard you say it that way, that it's more like a landscape. So I love that.
Thank you. Well, and I think, you know, we didn't get to where we are today, you know, instantly, just like we didn't get to riding a bike. You know, the first time we got on a bike, we had training wheels, or we had somebody riding along, you know, beside us, holding on to us. You know, I didn't get to where I did a whole lot of things that didn't work for me, which was why I ended up with the Land of Abandoned Projects on the website, because it's stuff that I tried and it was like, nope, doesn't interest me to keep going. I'm going to stop when I'm not interested anymore. And some stuff still intrigues me enough to hold on to it. I have pieces hanging on my design walls that they won't land in my abandoned projects, but I don't know where I'm going with them yet, but I still love them enough to hold on to them, you know, and some stuff just needs to simmer like a good soup.
Misfit Toys.
Misfit Toys, that's it. I mean, who doesn't love that old cartoon, right? Or do they still play that every year? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I've got a question. What's everyone's favorite color and why?
And why?
Yeah.
Green for growth. Absolutely. When we bought this house and it was surrounded by windows, and I said I was going to paint every wall green, and one of the contractors said, that's a whole lot of green. You're going to feel like you're outside.
Yes.
I'm like, absolutely.
Yes, make a statement. I love that. I love making statements, to be honest. So right now I'm living in landlord white, but hopefully that'll change in a year or two.
I love blue, like the blue you can see over there.
And why?
Like dark blue. I like the combination of cooler colors like blue and gray with warm wood furniture, and I love old things like this lamp. And the closet behind me, that kind of wood, and that combines really well with blue.
And what about everyone else? Colors?
I like white.
White. All right.
Yeah, I know I'm weird.
You are weird.
Yeah. When we bought our cabin, so we live in a cabin that's like an off the lot kind of shed. We ordered it to be the square footage and the dimensions that we wanted, and I told the guy, he said, well, what color do you want the main color, and what color do you want the trim? And I said, well, I want everything white trim, white main color. And he said, well, it's just going to look like a giant tissue box. That's boring. But
so we didn't buy it from him.
Well, actually, we didn't buy it from that guy. Yeah, I got mad and I went to a different dealer. But anyway, the point is that our house now is just like this little white, like, I don't know, a diamond in the rough kind of feel to it. Like, we are surrounded by beautiful nature. And I feel like our house is part of the landscape and not like dominating the landscape. So that's why I like the white. I feel like it's not like, I don't know, like we haven't like I don't commit to colors because I'm always worried that my favorite color is going to change. So I'll let my favorite color change in terms of like what I decorate with or what I wear, but not like the things that are sort of like more permanent. Because like right now I'm in the phase of wearing like fall colors, but I used to
Right, you
always
wear a lot
wear
of browns and
blue, you know. So
greens
yeah,
and,
like
browns
brown,
and reds.
brown and red now.
I usually say my favorite color is clear.
Clear.
But that's a joke.
Yeah.
But I like them all. You can't pick a favorite color. You gotta
Yeah,
like them all.
agreed.
Yeah.
Everything.
I know we all like colors, but if you had to pick one, that's the question, isn't it?
No.
For a while,
Poo-poo
Brown.
green,
Oh, Nemo.
poo-poo green, baby
Poo-poo
poop,
green.
orange.
He's a contrarian.
Nah.
Yeah, that's fine.
orange.
I would have never guessed that about Nemo.
Fluorescent, muddy colors.
Fluorescent muddy.
Oh,
color.
I love muddy colors. You know, people would always say when I was painting, it's like, oh, don't mix all your colors together. You're going to get mud. I'm thinking, what's wrong with mud? I love mud. It's brown. It's the color of the earth. I never minded that, but it's why I also wasn't ever any good at painting, especially watercolor.
They get muddy easily though.
Yeah.
A few more favorite colors going on here.
I
Lennon?
like
Yeah.
for the longest time I had the teal Bordeaux combo. Was like my favorite. I don't know, it has something I don't know, it just fits together. It's very
You use a lot of those
Mediterranean maybe.
colors in your work, Maria?
It's all over the place. Interestingly, although I always thought red was my favorite color, I do not use red very much in my paintings.
Yeah, I don't think you have to use your favorite color in your work all the time.
No, it just doesn't work out that way. Because I paint a lot of nature, and there is some red here and there. Actually, unless you paint water and stuff and sky, like probably plant-wise, it's mostly green and browns and that.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, those were like my favorite colors for the longest time for like clothing. I like those. Otherwise, like for like architecture or well, not architecture, but like interior and those kind of things. I think I do like mostly the natural colors like wood and like the lighter browns. Yeah, that's my favorite.
That's cool.
Although I do like a good red brick. That's nice too.
In London, there's a lot of yellow and red bricks, which is really cool.
Yeah, I like that too.
Mona?
Yeah, for me, it's I painted it here. It's Berlin green. That's my favorite one at the moment. But they change all the time. And for me, it's like when I see this color, I think of like a mystical winter forest scene. And I don't know. That's just why I like it right now.
Oh, Andrea said, I've noticed some artists wear the plainest of colors and then paint with so many colors. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few comments coming in right now, I think.
Yeah, let's see.
Lennon, what's your favorite color?
I don't really know. I feel like I like a lot of it's like I don't trust my gut on it sometimes, because sometimes I like really just bright primary colors, right? But then when I'm messing with like the website or something, I'll pick more of a pastelish blue or like some sort of like something that's a little different. And so it's interesting because when I'm just looking at things, I can it varies so much. So I feel like I'm sort of with Barbie, like I feel like I can't commit to something, and I wish that I could, but I think it's part of it too, is that I want to have a better knowledge of like color theory and things like that. Something that I want to be better at. But
you need to go check out the Color Cube. Again, this podcast I've been binging on lately. Had Sarah, does anybody know her? Sarah, last name starts with a D, Disher. She's in Australia, and she's a coloring book artist. And she invented this thing called the Color Cube. And it's it's basically like this huge box of nothing but color combinations, like nothing but almost like having your own paint sampling things of all the different ways things can go together. I've got to post the link in our group to this guy's podcast because he had a lot of good people on there. And yeah, just having somebody else, even if there aren't the colors I want to go for, I can usually pick 2, but it's really better to have 3. And, I so naturally go to a green and a brown. But what's really odd is I realized how I had so few green and brown threads, and I had all these other color threads. So I was attracted to the other colors, but I wasn't using them in my work, which is why I'm really pushing myself to step outside and do more multicolored things and see, if I can fall in love with it. But you can't make me like pink. Sorry. Can't make me like pink.
I find that interesting.
Barbie, have you seen the color cube then? Yeah, it's a physical copy of Design Seeds. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's very cool. And she was a great interview. Yeah. Sarah Dircher. If you just Google color cube, you'll find her.
Yeah, pink, huh?
Yeah,
it's
pink.
just an oversaturation. For me, it's mostly oversaturation of that specific pink that you find in little kids' girls' clothes. It's ridiculous.
It's Barbie Pepto-Bismol pink.
Yeah. I hate it. A good pink is so like salmon or something.
No, can't do that either.
Like a good men's shirt that's like in a salmon color. I think that.
Or dirty pink. Like what do you call
pink?
that? Old pink
like
or whatever.
Like rose.
Oh yeah.
The
Queen's pink.
Isn't there a shade of pink that's considered to be a neutral?
I think so.
Need somebody that's an expert.
I know
like
that.
Pink.
I live with someone who's a graphic designer. I know that pink back in the days in medieval times was a very expensive color and was actually a manly color as opposed to a girly color.
Yeah, blue was for girls because it's more calm and
Yeah.
Which is I found really interesting. Like people used to wear pink, men like in fighting, like some armor was like pink as well and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, for strength and courage and.
Yeah.
I can do a jeweled pink, like if it's a really deep, rich pink.
I'm going to say something controversial. My favorite color is purple. I love
purple. That's not controversial. That's a very royal color.
For me, purple. The reason why I like it, I do a lot of light programming, designing for TV shows and all that kind of stuff. And purple is exactly 50% red and 50% blue. So it's a cool color and a warm color. It's very ambiguous. I like that. It's pretty cool.
So you can't commit to red or blue. So you go with purple.
Yeah, and it looks cool. Like,
it's funny because I mean you have German roots, and Mona probably knows this too. Like purple. There's this thing in at least my grandma or the older people used to say this all the time with purple. Purple, die letzte Versuchung, which essentially means like this is the last. Like it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it in English. Like it's almost like it's not like anti-sexy. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just like the way. I mean, I like very bold colors for my music stuff and all that. Like for example, I've got an orange on purple. I put my logo in orange and then on a purple background because if you put that on a big video LED wall when you play a gig, it really slaps, for the lack of better words. And I like that. It stands out. Like pastel colors just don't do that kind of stuff in my technical world. But if I had to paint my house, that'd probably be a different story, I think. Saying that though, when I had my first flat years and years ago, when I was 18, 19, we moved out, my kitchen was bright yellow with green. In my living room was bright red with gray or something. So it was all out. Yeah, I just love colors.
Our last house, we had a huge library, literally, to house our over 10,000 books. And it was painted a very deep, deep red, looked like an old English library. It was always the favorite room in the house for anybody that came over to see it.
Yeah, I'm all about statements. Because when you look at people's houses right now on Instagram, you scroll through, it's all gray. I don't mind
or
gray.
sad beige.
Yeah.
Day.
Yeah.
I don't mind grey, but you have to combine it with something, don't you? Otherwise, it's just
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, sorry for the little discourse, but
No,
anyways,
it's
colours, so-
interesting. It's interesting, and people colors. I mean, they make us feel very emotional. I mean, that's why marketing, teams spend so many hours, days, months on coming up with brand colors to make a statement. I mean, certain colors. I was watching some editing videos, and I know this from everybody knows this from the different editing, but they'll go in and change the color of the shirt that somebody's wearing, because if they're wearing a shirt that's not going to pop and you're making a thumbnail or you're making a frame in the video that's you want to stand out, you need, if they haven't come dressed properly, they need to change the color of the shirt or change the color of the background to make things stand out. And certain things are going to make you feel a certain way. If you want somebody to feel sad when they're watching your video, you don't want them dressed in all these happy, bright yellow, pink, let's feel good about ourselves colors. You're going to have them in something kind of dingy and grungy, I would guess.
And I did another job the other day where there was a paint company, funny enough. That's how I had the idea to talk about it. And they were discussing the grey trend for houses and things. And I found out it was actually initiated by the paint company. It's a bit like high fashion. They dictate what's going to be fashionable, and then the smaller brands copy it. And they had a massive increase in prices for white because it used certain chemical. So it went up by 80% the material price. So they thought, we produce grey because that's cheaper. Let's just make it fashionable. Apparently, that's a true story too. And that's why I'm saying, make a statement with your houses. Paint them green, paint them black, paint them whatever you want. Just don't follow the trend.
Yeah. Well, trend, I mean, in any of our art, I mean, that's, again, back to the following the dollar for me. If the trend is everybody's making, little circle things that they can put, little magnets that they can put on their fridge, and I hop on that trend, by the time I get my circle magnets made, the trend is already so saturated that, and I'm not going to have fun, making them anymore, because now I've got 1,000 of these stupid little circles and nothing to do with them, because, nobody wants, I can go around the corner. I can order from Alibaba or whatever it is and get them even cheaper from China.
Yeah. I've got a cardboard box with 500 iPhone 5 cases because I had the idea once to decorate them and sell them. I sold 2. And then I thought, oh my God, this is not worth it. I'd stick to music. I can't do this. I bought all sorts of stuff with it, and same kind of story, really, I suppose. So if anyone wants an iPhone 5 case, I've got plenty.
So now you need to get into abstract art, though. You need to paint them all these different colors and then create this great big thing. And you'll be
I know.
This modern artist.
That's actually a really cool idea. Like, make this mural thing out. Yeah.
I was going to say, Hannah and Nemo might just start their next round.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me of a story. Does anyone know Sotheby's or something like that? Like an auction house in London for very expensive stuff. There was one night where there was this blue bag mural thing, and the other day was gone because the cleaning lady thought it was rubbish and got rid of it.
Wow.
So yeah, that was quite funny.
It's the same as Wim T. Schippers. He's a Dutch artist, and he was active years ago, and he made a peanut butter floor. And then a cleaning lady cleaned it up.
Got rid of it.
Yeah, this is smelly, and what is this? So it was cleaned up.
Jeremy, that's content for you, though. You take a picture of all these cases and you ask people what would they make with them, because I did that with these threads. I was ripping my jeans. My husband gave me a couple pairs of jeans, and I needed strips to make a basket. And I had this big pile of threads, and I posted, what would you guys make with them? And I already had an idea what I was going to do with them. And they were coming up with all kinds of different ideas. It was some fun engagement.
Yeah.
And Hannah's already got her mind going over there, right?
Yeah, I know she has. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I constantly, anything that we can line up in rows or radiate, that always.
I mean, they're all clear cases, so one has to do something with them first.
Oh, they're clear cases. Oh my, alcohol, ink, and paint, and
I think they're clear or they're white. One of those two things. They're neutral, so you can put stuff on them.
And are they plastic?
Yeah, they're like this soft, bendy plastics.
So
that
then
seem-
you could take an awl and you could get some holes through them and stitch them together into some weird stuff.
I wanted to make a wall out of them, like
Yeah.
a Tetris wall.
You need
Oh, a
3D
Tetris
pieces.
wall.
Remember that art show that we went to that had
Mhm.
the mouse pads
Oh yeah.
all over all the floor,
The
the
floor.
walls,
Oh, yeah.
everything
Mhm.
was
Just
mouse
mouse
pads,
pads.
old mouse pads that for I don't know how they got them, but
Well, they were kind of fun to walk on because they were squishy.
Yeah.
That's pretty
That's
cool.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an art installation once, where I helped programming it. They bought a lot of random televisions, computer monitors, anything like for £5 on eBay, $5 on eBay and stuff, and then we aligned them on a wall, and I basically matched content on it, so it looked really cool. And it's
Yeah.
really cheap.
Cool.
And then with the rubber, you could also punch things out of them. So, you know, you get the circle punch, you get the square punch, you get the, you know, star, you get whatever punches.
I need to call you guys more often, and I need to report back.
Mhm.
Jeremy tries art.
Mhm.
Well, I want to know, what is the hardest part other than finding the time? What is the hardest part of your art practice right now? And mine is definitely getting to the finish line. I start something new rather than finish. And I know what my issue is. I just need to work through it. But anybody else, what's the hardest thing about your art practice right now?
So my hardest part is probably the thinking about the process and the outcome before I start, and then getting overwhelmed by it. That's my problem.
For me, it's
and then I
not-
don't
not-
start.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
For me, it's not finishing per se, but finishing stuff in bulk. I now have a big bag of casted bronze lying there, and I need to finish it in bulk. So it's going to be 2 days just machine work one after the other, and that is the hard part for me, like the bulk work. That gets boring a bit at the end.
Mona?
I think for me, it's starting bigger projects. At the moment, I'm really like interested in doing like small things and just experimenting and having fun. So to get the motivation to sit down and do something bigger, something that's not just done, I don't know, in a few minutes. But that's okay. Also, I get to play a lot, so that's really nice.
Hannah?
Yeah. One of the hard things about our art business, our art form, is convincing people that we need their cans.
and for them to drink something cool,
Yeah.
be an adventurous drinker.
It's funny because we have some people, especially in our virtual audience, that's like they're really into it. They get it. They find the most unique cans, regional things, super local to their area, send them to us. So we had one guy in Hungary who sent us like 100 different cans. They were all so beautiful. A lot of them were like floral designs.
Yeah.
Loved them. But like our own, like where we live, like I struggle to remind my own parents. Like my dad, he loves to drink Coca-Cola, and he'll be like, "Oh, you want this can? Sure, let me finish it. Gulp, 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 smash. Here you go." You know, like, oh, he tries to like uncrunch it. Like they know what we do. They've seen us do it 1,000 times, and yet
They watch us sitting there in the front of our yard cutting cans.
yeah, and still for some people, they're just, and I don't know, I'm not gonna like accuse anyone, but I think they don't think that what we do is like a valid way to earn a living. Like it's like they almost don't really believe it. So when we say no, we really do want your can, and yeah, we want that Coca-Cola, even though you might think it's kind of boring. But we really would rather have it in our collection than for you to throw it in the garbage, which is what happens here. We don't have recycling. So cans just go in the garbage.
Mhm.
Or if they are willing to recycle, they have to save them for a long time, drive them to another town. It's a nuisance. So we are constantly trying to like just remind people, and some people just, it never sinks in.
So
And
you
that's
guys,
so frustrating.
you guys can go to Hannah and Nemo's website or go over to them on Instagram if you're trying to find where they're located. And she's serious. She's got a whole bunch of videos up about, when people send cans, she does the unboxing of it. And I have to get better at that because we drink LaCroix here and we need to be saving those cans for you.
Oh, yeah, and we stumbled into LaCroix. I mean, we had been saving LaCroix for so many years and not using them. And we were
using them at the reverse. So we'd always punch the reverse or just get the barcode to do something.
But like LaCroix is something that, and a lot of sparkling waters, a lot of people will drink them and not feel guilty. It's not like drinking
we
soda
drink a lot of them.
or a beer. It's more of like, if you're health conscientious, I guess, you're going to drink sparkling water. So we have so many of them, and we had just boxes and boxes and boxes of flattened LaCroix cans. And one day, a couple of years ago, we were discussing, and I'm pretty sure that Lennon is the one who's brought the idea to light. How can we make something that's just not so complicated? Because we tend to overcomplicate things. And Lennon said, we'll make something easy. So we said, well, what do we have a lot of? Well, we have a lot of LaCroix cans. Okay, let's look at the LaCroix. So we started to experiment. And the first couple of pieces we made we're just like, it kind of looks like an advertisement for LaCroix. But then we noticed that the LaCroix colors are very watercolory, and they also are kind of representative of like a primary, tertiary color wheel. And we realized that we could have them very easily flow or gradient into each other. And that piece there is the LaCroix piece that has the lemon yellow, the green lime, and the blue pure LaCroix.
Which they don't sell anymore.
So we started doing all these color combinations, and we ended up, we did 2 colors, then we did 3 colors, then we did 6 colors. And we're like, oh my gosh, we have rainbows. Like, we are making rainbows, something that we always loved, never tackled. And it was almost like it was too simple. Mm. And when we realized, we're like, wow, this is just so simple. Like, are people going to look at this and think that it's like too basic, too ordinary, too common? But no, we were completely wrong about our assumption. Once we started showing people these, they were just like, we want, make more. And so it's turned into one of our biggest things based on, first of all, our ideals. A rainbow is very, LGBTQ positive symbol. And we've always been that way, just never outwardly saying, rainbow this, rainbow that. Anyway, and then on top of that, LaCroix, it's a drink that we love, and we're constantly consuming it. So it ought to be one of our main medias. I don't remember the question you originally asked, but that's
like, what's the toughest part of your art practice now?
Yeah. Just convincing people that, we really do want those cans.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear Hannah accuse people? I couldn't believe it. All those accusations.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys aren't. Yeah, don't be throwing that in the garbage. Like,
because I'm gonna go in there after.
Yeah, or like, no, take us seriously. We're real. We really are committed to this. This is what we do. This is our life.
I'll take beer cans out of people's hands if I have to.
This is our livelihood. This is our life. This is our, this is what we care about deeply. And yet we still get people who are just sort of like, oh, y'all are just artists. Y'all are just playing with paint. Just not understanding.
I watched one of your videos where you showed the way you organize all the flattened cans and then the circles you punched. Let me find the link. And it was just kind of amazing to me to see all the things that you guys do. Let's see here. I got to find your website. I should have had this ready.
Oh, like, do you want to find the video on Instagram?
No, somebody was just asking me, and I have it here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Question.
Okay. There's their website. You can go check it out.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
And
I'll be adding all that stuff, all the links down in the description. I just did not get to it in time. Thank you, Barbie, for keeping me on track. So Lennon, what's your let's ask Lennon something he asks us all the time. Lennon, what are you struggling with? What's coming up for you right now?
Why is that?
Yeah.
What is that, Lennon? Yeah.
Can I probe you just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Okay. I don't get people asking me questions, so I'm into it. I was just sitting here thinking how nice it is that I don't have to lead this conversation, that I'm just getting to like hang out and listen. It's really fun for me. Yeah, when it comes to practicing art, I've brought this up to you guys before. There's like my background is like is music, and so when I left touring, I started getting into more commercial work, and that left me getting into this place of like trying to fit into a very specific box. Like literally they'd be like, oh, you should make something that sounds exactly like this or this, whatever. And I realized I wasn't great at that. And it left me feeling really, I think to your point, Susan, of like somebody criticizes you for something that it's like they're criticizing you based on someone else's style versus like your own, and it's such a backwards thing. And so it left me thinking like, well, I don't even know what I really want to do, And so as I got into doing business, like business kind of became this interesting thing to me that I didn't realize I would like so much. And then when I started to get back into wanting to do art, it was twofold. It was like, one, I didn't know how to play anymore because everything had to be like, I'm just so used to assignments, like, oh, go do, like, this is what you need to do, and I was afraid of assignments at the same time because like, well, then I have an expectation. And that's scary. So that's like a big part for me is like, it's hard for me to just go and play and just like be open to anything being sloppy and just like not even caring. And so that's the biggest like issue. And then the other part is like not knowing where it fits for me right now. Because it was such an escape for me before. And now I don't need that escape in the same way. It was like, it helped me be when my mom died, like making music and doing art was like the thing that helped me cope. When I was dealing like being in an alcoholic family, like making music was like the safe thing. And now I don't have needs for finding that safety. So it's been a challenge to kind of come back to it and say, what is my relationship to that as an established adult who doesn't need it in the same way that I did as an adolescent getting into an adulthood. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. And I've been thinking about this myself lately. And you've talked about this before in groups with us about the stories we tell ourselves, and we have to rewrite the stories because, I was thinking about creating a piece of content about being asked to leave the art class, and, that had come up, and it was like, okay, so I'm trying to write this script, and I'm thinking, Richard Bach wrote this book, Confessions of a Reluctant Messiah. I don't know if you know the book at all, but he wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And you go through this whole book and he's giving you all this advice about living your life and doing things to follow your, whatever your bliss. And at the end of it, he says, but everything in this book might be wrong. And I'm thinking all the stories I've been telling myself, what if they're all wrong? What if I don't, I'm 65 years old. I don't remember what was said word for word back in the 7th grade. I remember how it made me feel. And I have to rewrite those stories. And that's probably one of the hardest things as a creative, I think. Well, just as a human, but as a creative, it affects us, I think, on another level because it affects how we put ourselves out there in the world and whether we put ourselves out there in the world. If we've been telling ourselves we're worthless because of some story in our head, we have to rewrite that story so that we can go out there and say, well, maybe I'm not worth this. Maybe I'm just a little bit tentative. Maybe I'm just a little bit inexperienced. Maybe I'm just a little bit shy. And I can go out there and rewrite my story and say, okay, maybe he didn't really say you suck at art. Maybe he said, this doesn't look like you're having a good, I don't think he said you're not having a good time because back then we didn't talk about having fun creating things. You did things according to the rules. But maybe I could rewrite that to say, what if instead this teacher just had a really bad week and he just came over to me and said, Susan, it doesn't look like you're enjoying this. Maybe you should go find something you like to do more. That would have been a completely different story than saying, you're no good at this. You need to leave. And I've already transferred you out of the class. Go see your counselor. That part I remember.
Yeah.
So I think but we've got to go through those experiences to get to the point of where we are now and be able to rewrite the stories. I did not have the emotional capacity to rewrite my story when I was your age, Lennon. There was no way.
Yeah.
I was still wallowing in I suck.
It's so interesting, like that. Yeah, that you say that, because the other part of the story that I tell myself a lot that would definitely be a block that I didn't, for whatever reason, didn't think of it. Because that's the other thing too, right? Is like that sometimes there's stories that we don't even see them as stories. It's just like it's so just there that you just don't even think about it. It's like
we don't doubt it.
Yeah, it's just this microphone exists, even though it's unplugged and isn't working. Like to me, it's like all there, like, and so doing so much with you all in like the business side of it and all those things, and sort of trying to rediscover it. There's definitely a story around, well, what happens when people see me fumble through it and I'm not in a professional artist scenario right now, right? Like, how will people perceive me? Because I'll get comments all the time, like, show me your art. I'm like, well, you're looking at it. Like, the business right now is my art form currently. So, but what does that look like to people on the outside coming in? Like, oh, here's this dude that is telling me how to do this thing. So there's a lot of fear around, like, because people won't know my heart behind it or the experience that I've had throughout my life. In a moment, they'll only see like, oh, here's this thing that this guy's trying to figure out, and he's telling me how I should be running my business. I'm like, I get that. Those are rightful, like, criticisms, so it's,
but then it's like, you tell us, I mean, then you haven't found your people, because the right people, I do the scroll right past all those perfectly curated reels, all those perfectly curated pictures where everything looks up. I'll look down and I'll say, oh, okay, she's had 1,500 responses. Is this? And it's like, now you're set up for a photo shoot. The people that get on there and talk about their business with all their perfect settings, or they're wandering out in the garden with the birds or sing, I don't trust them because I don't feel real and I can't relate to them. And I love seeing people fumble. I love people showing the crappy parts of their work, the crappy parts of their life, and saying, hey, look, you and me, we're alike. I struggled with this. I have ugly backsides of my work. I bet you do too. And you know what? It's still art, because on the other side, it's still something pretty. I want to see the fumbles. I want to see the falls. I want to see people pick themselves up every time they get knocked down, because that tells me we're alike. And if you are so perfect that every time you pick up your phone to take a picture, it's this perfectly museum curated photo shoot, I don't trust you, and I'm just going to go right on by.
Yeah.
Soapbox,
Right.
somebody take it.
Yeah, because you don't see the behind the scenes, you don't see the human, right? It's just, if it's like the finished, it's kind of like with art. And I've thought about this too when making watercolors. When you start out and in the middle, and actually my painting is in that stage right now, you get to the stage where it's kind of like ugly. Like, it's just, you have to trust the process. At some point it's going to look good. And then at the end, it's going to look good. But if you only show the end, right? If you only show the finished product, nobody's going to see that. Nobody's going to see the middle. And if they then do see the middle for someone, and they're not used to it, they might just be like, what is this ugly? Like, they can't paint or whatever. But it's, and the same with like, your life or something. But then, realistically, no, everyone is like that. Your life is not picture perfect. How many moments out of your day are picture perfect? Not many.
Exactly. Yeah,
well,
Barbie.
I am,
But by the way, yeah, if you want to see the ugly stage of a painting, I can show you this right now.
Well, I just heard
There.
Susan talking about my ugly backside.
This is the ugly stage.
But it's not the ugly stage to the rest of the world too. That's the other thing. We're not qualified to judge at what stage we're in that ugly, the stages of our art. I don't think we're qualified to judge that. I think we all bring, if you're someone like me that's been told you suck at art, and then you ask me to evaluate your art, I'm going to look at your art through the view of my experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Despite Lennon's ugly backside. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have been seeing this weird trend of people like asking for, oh, that's beautiful, Roxanne. I love that. I've been seeing this interesting trend around people, especially young people, which always makes me a little unnerved, doing critiques of other people's work. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, what is the purpose of that? Like, what are you really getting from that? And it really kind of lights me up in a way. I haven't made a lot of talk, like I haven't talked a lot about it, but it's something that has been kind of burning me a little bit, because I'm like, what are you learning by feeling like you have to get someone else to critique your work? Like what's the goal of that? Like, I guess I see some of the goal. The goal is like, well, I want to be better, so help me, but it's just like open critique. It's not like, hey, how can I have better, how can I use color better, or how can I like be better at my composition? It's just like, here's an open critique, and somebody's like, this person's using derivative blah blah blah, and I'm like, really? I don't understand that side of it. I don't know if anybody has any insight on it.
Well, you shouldn't really give critique if it's not asked for. That's my opinion.
Well, they're asking for it, but there's no specific ask. It's just open critique, which feels like then you're just asking for somebody to attack your innate, thing in some way. And I feel like that can be detrimental, as opposed to saying like, I'm working on this. Can you help me figure this out?
Do you think that maybe the question they're not asking is that they're seeking external validation because they don't have that confidence in themselves? I mean, sure, yeah. Every time we post our work online, we're looking for those likes, right? We're looking for those shares. We're looking for somebody to say, wow, that's amazing. Even if we're not asking for that, and even if we're not asking for a critique. But I think if we ask for a critique, I know when I was writing, we would have critique groups, when we would do that sort of thing. And then you would go to a conference and you would pass your stuff around. And yeah, the worst ones were the ones where they didn't say, tell me what you want help with. Are you questioning your character motivation? Are you questioning your plot? It was just like, well, read this and tell me what you think. Yeah. And that's just too wide open, because it's like saying, well, come along and slap my dog for me, because most people are not, they feel like if you're asking the question, you want them to tell you something's wrong with it, when really you're too afraid to say, I did this and this makes me happy and I'm so proud of this work I did. I just want to share it with the world, not asking for anything. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really it. It's like that. I just want to see more people be like, no, give me guidelines here. Like, let's ask better questions. Let's, respect someone's intuition and say, like, what is the thing that you're really trying to highlight, and how can we help you highlight that, as opposed to, but that's the problem with most things, I feel like, period, is that people try to make everything one way, and it just doesn't, it's always well, you're either this or you're this. It's like, nope, we're always this, always. Which is an either this or this statement, by the way.
Two things can exist at the same time, even if they may be contradictory to each other.
Yeah. And I like the idea of asking better questions. I mean, how much more interesting and enriching would our lives be if we just asked better questions about everything? Mm-hmm. Not just took blind acceptance or, turned ourselves away and said, no, I don't want to see that, but we just asked better questions.
Well, absolutely. I have a question.
What?
who's gonna hate me if I leave because I have a call?
Yeah, we need to. We've gone an hour and a half, and you guys have been awesome. I'm looking forward to doing this again. You guys have to talk and decide who's going to host the next one. But this was terrific. Anybody that's hanging out there in Lurkerland, thanks for hanging with us. And you can go visit everybody's sites, go find them on the socials, and we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, let's do it again really soon. I think we should make this a bigger part of like.
I like the idea of doing it maybe once a month with our, on our alternate weeks. Yeah.
Why don't we all put our websites in the comments, because then people don't have to come back and find them later.
That's awesome. Go ahead and do so. That would be great. But I will still go ahead and update things in the description for the replay.
If you're looking for art critiques, I'm doing them. All right, I'm sending love to y'all. I gotta go get ready for a call. I'll talk to you.
All right, thanks, Lennon.
Bye.
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 Okay, guess we're gonna go to y'all.
Yeah.
Are we done?
I think so. We've gone almost an hour.